With our TV UV mapped, let's go ahead and export out the map so we can take it into Photoshop and do a little texturing. I'll tab into edit mode and select everything, and there's our UV map. And I'll go ahead and go to UVs, export UV layout. I'll go to my textures folder, and I'll create a new folder here, and I'll call it TV. And in here, I'll just call this TV_UVs. Now, down here in the size, we've currently got 1024. I'm going to go ahead and export it out as 2048. And if I need to, I can always save it out of Photoshop at a smaller resolution like 1024 or 512. But for now, I'll go ahead and use 2048 so I have more resolution to work with while I do the texturing. Alright, so I'll export these out. And there we go. Let's go take a look at them in Photoshop. Here in Photoshop, I've got my UV map pulled up. I will go ahead and change this top layer to UVs, call it UVs. And I need to find that wood grain texture, that kind of dark wood grain veneer that we saw on that reference image. In fact, why don't we pull that up? I'm going to open this up and let's find the reference image of that TV. And while we're here, we can go ahead and open up these textures too that we're going to use on the texture map as well. Open that. And here is that TV. So I'm looking for this kind of fairly dark wood grain veneer. So here at textures.com, I'm going to go ahead and use this and look for some sort of a dark wood. I'll look for only seamless. This is nice, but the problem is it's a floor. It's got the breaks in it as if it's got wood floorboards, so I don't want that. This is kind of nice here. Let me take a look at that. Yeah, I think maybe I'll go with this Wood Fine 11. So I'll download it and take it into Photoshop. Here in Photoshop, I'll go ahead and select it. I can go to Select and All, select All here. And then I can go to Edit and Copy right here, Control or Command C. And I'll go back to my UVs and I'll paste it here with Control or Command V. So here we go. I'll drag it down below the UVs. And let's start putting this in place. I'll hold the Shift key and scale it down, and I'll get it so it's about the size of one of these side panels here, something like that. I think that'd work pretty well. I'll hit the Z key and zoom in. Yeah, I think this could work. Let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to press Alt, Shift, and drag this down. And do that probably just one more time here. And let's also put this over this part right here. I'll press Alt to copy it and drag it and move it right over here. And then I'll duplicate it again and put it right there. All right. So I'm going to need to clean this up a bit because it's going way over into the other UV islands. I'll press M and I will go ahead and drag out an area to delete. There we go. We could also extend this wood grain to these areas as well. So we placed these UV islands so they would go in line with the grain. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just hit Alt and click and drag this. And once again, Alt and Shift and click and drag. There we go. And then one more right down here, like that. Okay, so now we need to clean this up. What we can do is go ahead and combine all these layers together with Shift-click all of these, press Control or Command E, and combine those all together. I'll now use that magic wand tool over here to select everything around all the UVs. Contract them back just a bit, contract maybe 2 frames, and then I'll select the wood layer and delete all of that. So that cleans that up. Now, it didn't clean everything up quite the way we want because this is still covered, so I'll select that and delete those as well. All right. Now we want to include the little legs down here. So I'll just, with the wood layer selected, I'll just click and drag in here and press Control C and Control V, and that will give me a new area that I can drag around. And this time I need to turn the wood grain down some, like that, just so we can cover this area right here. That'll work. I'll go ahead and combine those back, and I'll call that wood. There we go. Now, of course, this area doesn't need wood on it. Now, does it? We need to clean that off because that's going to be our speaker fabric. We want that. All right. So let's go ahead and grab that speaker fabric. Where is that? Here it is. Let's grab this. I'll select all and copy, and let's paste this right in here. Now I'll move it up into here, shrink it down a bit, and then duplicate it as well. Let's see if we can place that Zenith logo on our plate here. I'll come back over to the Zenith nameplate, and this is pretty small, but I think it'll work. Let's give it a try. I'm going to press the M key and drag select around this. Try and get it pretty tight. It's a little bit off angle or a little bit turned, so I'm going to have to adjust that some. But let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to press Control Command C to copy, and let's come back over here and I'll paste this here. Now I'll move that up into this area, and let's see if we can use the warp or distort tools to get this the right size and so it isn't quite so angled. So I need to turn it a bit. Let me just turn it just a hair to get it so it's parallel with the top there. Now I need to get these bottom corners in line, so I'm going to stretch that down, but we're going to need to pull these a bit. So let's go up here to Edit, Transform, and let's try Warp. Let's see if this will help. Let me grab this and drag it in to that edge right there, and maybe grab this one. Yeah, there we go. And let me grab this and move it in. Maybe move that. This looks okay, I think. Something like that. So let me clean up the edges here. With the M key, I'm going to just drag a marquee out here to try and clean up these edges and delete those. And I'll do the same all the way around. Now let's go ahead and take this color here, and I'm going to maybe use this color to put around the edges. I kind of like this worn gold material here. So I'll press the I key to grab that color, and I'll press the M key and then drag a marquee, say right in here, and go to the paint tool. Let me create a new layer and drag it underneath that. There we go. And I'll just add that color underneath it, like that. And I can do the same thing over here. M and drag, and I'll add that color again with the G key or the paint bucket down there. Same thing over here. So now we've got that done. We've got our fabric in place. We need to think about the color of these knobs, the frame around the tube, that panel. I think those all can be about the same color. What color should they be? Well, maybe like a silver color, because if we go over here to that TV image, they're all about the same color. In fact, we could even hit the I key and sample a color here. Give this a try. Let's try something like that. And let's come back over here, and now I'll just create a new layer for these. Hit the M key, and I'll just marquee around these, hit the G key, and fill. It seems a little too dark. Let's lighten that up just a bit and a little bit more gray. There we go. I think that should work. Let's do this one over here. And then this frame here as well. I'll drag a marquee like so and fill that. All right, so now that tube, let's see what we can, I like that greenish color here, so let's just grab that. Let's just, yeah, I kind of like that. All right, and one last time, let's create a new layer and go to our marquee tool and just drag and hit G and select that. All right. Before we clean it up and put a black background in it, let's go ahead and export it out and test it to see how it looks. So I'll turn off the UVs and I'll go to File and Export, Export As, and I'll go to Export All and put that in my TV texture folder. I'll take out the UVs and put an _C for color map. And now let's just take it into Blender and take a look at it. So I'm going to need to create a new material here. I can do that over here in the node editor or over in the properties panel. I'll just do it over here in the node editor this time, and I'll just call it TV. And let's press Shift A and go to Texture and Image Texture, and now let's bring in that color map. There we go. And I'll switch from solid to texture viewport shading, and there we go. Not too bad. Now I think this panel here though should probably mirror the color pattern of this, so maybe I want some of that gold up in here. Let's come back to Photoshop, and for this panel, this is it right here. We should probably try and take this color, put it in here. And we need a little dirt here too. This has got a nice patina to it, and I kind of want that over here. So we'll need a little grunge. See what we have again. Yeah, let me try this. I'll bring that in, grab it, paste it. And I'll change the blending mode to multiply, let's say. Yeah. There we go. Something like that. I think I'll reduce the size of it even more, so it's pretty small here. There we go. And maybe reduce the opacity just a bit. There we go, something like that. So it kind of matches this a little bit. And what else did we say? Oh, the knobs. We want these little knobs to have black on them right here. And let's go ahead and take, oh, not a complete black, but a pretty dark gray, and lay that down right there. There are a couple of little housekeeping chores that we should do before we take this into Unity. First of all, I want to take this pivot point and move it down to the center of the grid here. So I'll just come over here to the Tools panel, set Origin and Origin to 3D Cursor. There we go. The next thing I need to do is think about what kind of materials I want here. I'm going to set up the materials in Unity, but I need to break them out here in Blender before I export this. So let's think about this. First of all, I guess we need a material for the wood veneer here. We need a material for this frame. And the material for the frame may also be the material for the knobs here. We may be able to use that. I think we need a material for the panels. They're going to be a little bit different shininess than probably anything else. And also the tube here, I think we're going to want this to be fairly reflective in the scene, so we'll probably need a material for that. So we've got quite a few materials going on here in this one object. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and set up the materials the way we did for the walls of the room. One object, but multiple materials. So for the main one here, let's call this TV/wood, because that's that wood veneer. Let's tab into edit mode, and maybe I'll hover over the screen here and press the L key. And for this, let's create a new material slot. Let's call it TV screen, and let's assign that. There we go. Let's also do the frame. So I'll hover over the frame, and I'll also hover over these knobs here. Currently, I'm selecting by seam, or my selections are being delineated by seams, and I don't want that. I want to just, let's use material, and that will allow me to select over the seams. So I'll just press the L key and select these pieces. Let's, with a new material slot and a new material, let's call this TV, I don't know, frame. Let's just call it TV frame and hit assign. We're going to need materials for these panels. So I'll deselect those and hover over this panel, press the L key, and this one, and press the L key here. So we want the same material on these pieces. I'll create a new material slot, a new material, TV. What do you think we should call these? I don't know. Let's just call them panels. Okay, let's also do this piece here, the fabric. That's just one face, so I'm going to go to face mode and select that, like that. This is going to be the fabric, so I'll create a new material slot and a new material and call this TV fabric and assign that. Now look what I did. I did not assign that material to these panels, so I better go back and do that. Let me hover over and select those with the L key, select the panels material, and click assign. All right. So now if I come up here to the TV wood material and hit select, that's what I get. That's correct. Okay. And I can deselect here, and I can go through and just test each one of these. Now, currently I have the TV frame including the TV screen, and that isn't correct now, is it? So if I choose the TV screen and I hit select, I don't get anything. So that's a problem. What let's do is let's go back and select that screen, and with TV screen selected, I'll click assign. Now let's test this again. I'll go to TV frame, hit select, and that's what I should get. So you just sometimes need to go back and make sure that what you got is what you want. There we go. Okay, so I think that works. We now have our materials in place. We have our pivot point where we want it to be. I think we are ready to export this out to Unity.